Hey guys, tonight we wander down to the edge of an ancient Roman harbor where the air smells faintly of salt, wet stone, and the kind of dust that looks like it absolutely should not be important but somehow changes history anyway. You stand on a creaking wooden pier, sandals already collecting grit, watching small waves tap against blocks of stone that have been sitting here for, only about 2,000 years. No big deal, just casual, empire-defying rocks. A gull squawks overhead like it's personally offended by architecture, and you squint at a pile of dull gray powder stacked in sacks nearby. It looks suspiciously like the contents of a very neglected vacuum cleaner. And yet, this sleepy ash is about to become the quiet hero of the Roman coastline. You probably won't survive this, mostly because harbor construction involves heavy lifting, confusing Latin yelling, and zero ergonomic training. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're settling in, go ahead and post your location and local time in the comments. It's oddly comforting to imagine all of you scattered across the globe, drifting off while we stand ankle-deep in Mediterranean history. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You shuffle closer to the sacks, toes nudging volcanic ash, pozzolana as the Romans call it, named after the region of Pozzuoli near Naples. This is the mainstream historical fact that builders here treat like gold dust. When mixed with lime and rubble, this ash creates a hydraulic concrete that can set underwater. Yes, underwater, as in the ocean is trying to ruin everything underwater. Most ancient mortars would throw in the towel the moment they got wet. This one basically says, perfect, more moisture. A worker hands you a small lump of lime, chalky and pale. Another tips a sack, and the gray ash spills out in a soft cloud that makes everyone cough in a very non-OSHA-approved chorus. You stir it with a wooden paddle in a shallow trough, and it looks like you're preparing the world's least appetizing oatmeal. Somewhere, a Roman laborer definitely jokes that if this doesn't work, at least they can serve it for breakfast. That's joke number one, and morale is everything when you're building for eternity. The quirky tidbit drifting through the air with the dust? Some Roman writers believed certain volcanic soils were gifts from the gods, forged by underground fire spirits. It's not official engineering doctrine, but it does make you feel slightly more dramatic about holding a shovel. You glance toward the calm bay, where wooden forms wait to be lowered into the water. Historians still argue whether Roman builders fully understood the chemistry behind this miracle mix, or simply mastered it through trial, error, and a lot of splashing around. Either way, you're here now, hands in the ash, about to help make rocks that get stronger the more the sea tries to hug them. Honestly, it's the most passive-aggressive relationship with water you've ever witnessed. The wooden frames bob gently beside you, tied to posts like very patient, very rectangular boats. You and a small army of workers grip the edges, boots slipping on damp planks as you guide the first form down into the shallow surf. The sea slides around your calves, cool and pushy, clearly not consulted about this construction project. The frame settles, and suddenly you're standing in what feels like a giant box-shaped bathtub that nobody intends to drain. This is where Roman harbor builders quietly ignore ordinary rocks and do something far more interesting. Instead of stacking dry stone like a neat little wall, they pour that wet ash-lime mixture, along with chunks of volcanic tuff and rubble, straight into these submerged wooden molds. That's your mainstream historical fact for the moment. Roman marine concrete is often cast directly underwater, forming massive monolithic blocks rather than tidy bricks. Subtle, understated, just casually pouring an artificial cliff into the ocean. You and a few others heave baskets of the sludgy mix over the edge. It lands with a heavy glorp that would absolutely go viral as a sound effect today. Joke number one, if there were ancient Roman social media, this would be tagged #oddly satisfying, but also #back pain. The seawater immediately seeps into the mixture, swirling in cloudy ribbons. You'd think this is a disaster, water ruining the set, washing things away, but here it's more like an uninvited guest who accidentally brings the perfect dessert. The lime in the mix reacts with volcanic ash and seawater, beginning chemical processes that will slowly form strong binding minerals. You don't see crystals or reactions, of course. You keep working, arms moving in that slow, repetitive rhythm that turns even heavy labor into something almost meditative. Basket up, lean, tip, glorp. The mix spreads, settling into corners of the wooden form, swallowing chunks of stone like a gray, determined pudding. If ancient Rome ever opened a cafe, this would be the signature dish: harbor oatmeal a la Neptune. Joke number 1, and honestly, you're a little too tired to laugh properly. This is where you really get a feel for the recipe. Lime, burned from limestone in roaring kilns, is the reactive heart of the blend. Pozzolanic ash, fine and dusty, provides silica and alumina. Rubble gives it bulk, like croutons in the least appealing soup in history. That's your mainstream historical fact here. Roman hydraulic concrete depends on the reaction between lime and volcanic ash, creating compounds that can harden in wet conditions, unlike many earlier mortars. You kneel and push the mixture with a wooden pole, watching cloudy water swirl across the surface before slowly clearing. The sea doesn't dissolve the concrete, it becomes part of the process. Over time, very relaxed, geologically patient time, minerals begin forming inside. One of the stars of this quiet show is a crystal called tobermorite, which modern scientists have identified in Roman marine concrete. It grows in the cracks and pores, knitting the material together like nature doing tiny, unpaid repair work. A fellow worker beside you swears that if you listen closely, you can hear the concrete drinking the seawater. You lean in just in case. All you hear is gentle sloshing and someone coughing on ash dust. The block you helped pour days ago now sits heavier, quieter, as if it has decided to commit to being a rock for the next few millennia. The wooden form still hugs its sides, dark and swollen from the sea, but inside, the once sloppy mixture has stiffened into something that feels less like breakfast and more like geology. You run your palm over the surface just above the waterline, and it's already resisting your touch with stubborn confidence. You wade along the line of these forming masses, part of a growing breakwater stretching into the harbor. This is your mainstream historical fact here. Roman ports like Portus near Rome used massive concrete breakwaters to calm waves and protect ships, creating safer anchorages that helped imperial trade thrive. Without these seawalls, grain ships, marble cargoes, and amphora of olive oil would have had a much more dramatic relationship with the seabed. An overseer points toward the horizon, where more vessels approach, hulls low in the water. They're not just bringing wine or fish sauce, they're hauling pozzolana from volcanic regions, sometimes across impressive distances. Imagine an ancient supply chain built around fancy dirt. Joke number 1, somewhere a Roman accountant is trying to explain why the empire's budget includes large quantities of gray powder, and nobody questions it because, well, look at these walls. You step onto a partially finished section, waves slapping rhythmically below. The concrete here has been curing for years, maybe decades. Seawater seeps into tiny cracks, and instead of weakening the structure, it encourages more mineral growth. Modern researchers have found that minerals like aluminous tobermorite and phillipsite can form over time, reinforcing the material from within. It's like the wall is quietly doing yoga and
Time loosens its belt and stretches. You blink, and the busy Roman harbor with its shouting foremen and sloshing baskets fades like a dream you almost remember. The breakwater remains. Centuries slide past it the way water slides along its sides. Kingdoms rise, languages shift, sandals go tragically out of fashion, Yet the concrete sits there, doing its quiet underwater thing. You drift forward to an age where the recipe is no longer common knowledge. Medieval builders work with stone and lime mortars, impressive in their own way, but the particular magic of volcanic ash and seawater chemistry isn't widely used. That's your mainstream historical beat in this stretch of time. Large-scale Roman-style marine concrete becomes rare after the fall of the Western Roman Empire. The knowledge doesn't vanish in a puff of smoke, it just thins, fragments, and gets overshadowed by other techniques. You wander along a weathered shoreline where old Roman structures still jut from the surf, half forgotten. Locals fish nearby, perhaps unaware they're leaning against materials that have been slowly strengthening since antiquity. The quirky tidbit here is that some of these ancient harbor blocks have been reused over the centuries, repurposed into later structures, as if medieval builders thought, "Free rock? Don't mind if we do." Now the scene gently shifts again, and modern scientists in bright vests and very unsandal-like boots chip small samples from submerged ruins. They carry them to labs, peer through microscopes, and find those same mineral crystals, tobermarite and friends, threading through the old concrete. Historians still argue whether we can fully reproduce the Roman process using modern materials, or if subtle differences in ancient ash and long-term seawater exposure are the real secret. You imagine a researcher staring at a thin section slide, whispering, "What did you know, you sneaky Romans?" You sit on a warm rock, listening to soft waves, remembering that gray dust under your fingernails back in the harbor. The idea that something mixed so casually, lime, ash, rubble, seawater, could become more durable with time feels oddly comforting. Not everything has to peak early. And now the pace slows. The harbor grows quieter. The wind becomes a gentle, steady hush, like a faraway breath. You picture the surface of the water smoothing, moonlight laying a silver path across it. The breakwater is just a dark, patient line beneath, holding, always holding. Your shoulders soften, the air